Hello. Are you drowning in information but feeling starved for actual usable knowledge? Every day we consume countless articles, books, podcasts, videos, but how much of that valuable content actually sticks with you? Now, research shows that our brains are just not designed to store all the information. They're meant for having the ideas, but they just can't hold everything we get in the modern world. Well, welcome back to Better Creating, and in today's video, I'll show you how and why you should be using a personal knowledge system and how to build one quickly as part of, say, a digital second brain, a bit like my Notion Life OS I go on about. And I actually call mine a knowledge hub. It's a personalized knowledge management approach that extends your thinking beyond the limitations of memory. Now, here's the problem. Information overload doesn't just waste your time in the modern world, it actively sabotages your creativity and productivity. Think about it, those brilliant insights that you had while reading an article last month, where did they go? Or maybe that perfect quote for the presentation is gone. And that connection that you made between two seemingly unrelated concepts, which I should have written down when I went to sleep, yeah, they're gone forever. Well, I'm going to show you how you can capture these valuable ideas effortlessly and have them at your fingertips exactly when you need them. Imagine having a system that not only stores information, but actually helps you make those unexpected connections, sparks creativity, and most importantly, transforms your work by making sure that the value that goes in comes out the other end. Yep, today you'll see how this connects to the other elements I've built in previous videos in my Notion Build Along series, and you'll learn the core principles first behind effective knowledge capture, the exact tools I use in my workflow, and a step-by-step demo on how to build this system in Notion. So by the end, you're going to have everything you need to transform information overload into your creative superpower. Oh, and if you've ever lost a great idea, I think you should hit subscribe because there's a load more and some great tools and tech on this channel every week to help you get organized. I should let you know you'll also find my ready-made Notion templates at bettercreating.com if that's more your vibe and you just want to kind of skip to the results. But before you do that, you've got to hear this, the key thinking behind a knowledge system that you should master. Before diving into the specific tools and how to build this for yourself fast, let's understand why traditional note-taking fails us in the digital age. Unlike linear notebooks where information gets buried and forgotten, a digital second brain organizes knowledge non-linearly, allowing ideas to connect across topics and projects. The magic happens when you follow what's called the code methodology. This is inspired by Tiago Forte. Check him out, he's a bit of a legend in the space. Number one, capture. Selectively save valuable ideas and insights that you encounter. Number two, organize. Structure information in an accessible, action-orientated way. Number three is distill. Extract and refine the most valuable elements. And then finally, number four, express. Use your knowledge to create valuable output. So what makes a great second brain system? Well, it needs to be searchable across all content types. It needs to be accessible for all your devices. It needs to be flexible enough to adapt to your evolving needs. And it probably needs to be capable of creating connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. Now, I'll show you how to build this for yourself in just a bit, but first, we do need to talk about the best apps and tools that you might want to use to do this, and my system is really built around two key components. The core system is really two apps for me, Notion and Readwise. Now, one is free and the other is paid, but it's the free one that's essential. But let's talk about capture. I use and highly recommend Readwise. I think I pay around about $90 possibly a year to use it, but it's well worth it. And as a central hub, it works to sync all of your, say, highlights from the books that you read, notes, podcast clippings, everything through that hub. And the great thing about this is whilst it's paid, it's seriously golden for how it can distill everything back to where you need it. I'll show you how you can make it the center of your system in Notion in a little bit, but my favorite thing about it is the number of connections you can make to other apps. And for me, yes, Notion is my primary workspace and storage. I love its flexibility, the databases, and the fact that we have the ability to truly customize it around our specific needs. So that's Readwise and Notion at the center. But let's not forget, there are other popular options for a central hub. And probably the two big ones are Obsidian and Evernote, with a little honorable mention to going, well, you could just do this in Apple Notes. Obsidian is perfect if you prefer local storage and powerful links between notes, and Evernote, still excellent for simple note organization and reliable capture. I also realize though that building a second brain like this takes time, and many people just don't have that. But implementing one doesn't have to. If you like to skip straight to using rather than building, I've created two options for you. My standalone Knowledge Hub template that mirrors what I'm going to show you in a minute, or my comprehensive Life OS that integrates knowledge management with tasks, goals, habits, and a shed load of other things. Link to both are in the description. Now, I do want to address here that many people don't think Notion's right for them, mostly due to the lack of an offline mode and more involved initial learning curves and time that's needed to build one out. But there's actually good news on both of those objections. Number one, we've seen Notion already experimenting with offline mode, and I hope we will see it released by the end of 2025. And on the learning curve question, I can help you there too with the above mentioned templates and a bunch of tutorials. Okay, finally, let's check out a couple of great capture tools that I really think that you need to check out to add into a good knowledge capture system. Snipped, which is SNIPD, is essentially for capturing and syncing podcast highlights. It's really brilliant. I use it every day just to listen to fun stuff, but you can triple click on your headphones or press a little button and it will capture the last 30 seconds that you listen to as a quote, a bit like you would when you highlight, say, on a Kindle. Really brilliant. Flylighter is a quick web highlighting tool that was invented by another Notion bod, Thomas Frank. Check it out. It's kind of a grown-up version of the next tool, which is called Save to Notion. Now, I've been using this for a year, and it's also a kind of Google Chrome extension that gives you one-click saving of web content directly into your system. But I'll demo this a little bit later in the build. Okay. Here's what most second brain tutorials miss. The goal isn't to create a beautiful, complex system that you'll never use. The real purpose is to transform consumption into creation, to build a cycle where what you read, watch, and listen to becomes fuel for what you create and share. Now, you might be wondering, how do I actually build a system in a way that works for me? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna do next. Terrible. But seriously, let's do it, and hit the like button if that's all been useful. All right, let's begin the basics of a build. Now, the first thing I want to do is just take you to here. Now, you're going to have an option here as to whether you want to build something with Readwise in mind or whether you just want to build from scratch in Notion. This is my Notion Life OS. It's the full fleshed out template, so you don't have to build it. You can just buy it. But the benefit of building it, as we're going to do in this, which is now essentially a model that we'll put it into, is that you get to understand it. You don't have to have built all of this. You can just build it as a standalone. But the great thing is, for those that have maybe followed this wider series of my Notion build along, you'll be able to integrate it with the stuff we've already done, and make sure you do check out the previous videos in the series on how to do all of this stuff if you're interested. Now, when you create Readwise connections with Notion, you'll get a database like this. And so we're going to start with that. But let me just show you what we're going to build. We're going to take a little look in here. This is in my actual template that's live at the moment, the knowledge base I want to create. And I want a quick capture function here, which is where I can add new things. And then we have inboxes for new references, meeting notes, and personal writing. And then you have filtered views of notes that might be created by you in the My Notes section. And then we've also got here notes and references that you might have clipped. And this is an example of something that's been clipped from the web, from Tiago Forte's website there. We're going to be building really the resource area of Para, if you're interested in that. Now, you can do that with a couple of things, as I mentioned earlier, Save to Notion. Then, of course, there is Readwise, and they have a full guide in their system of how you can export your Kindle highlights and various highlights in Readwise into a Notion database, which ends up looking like this one that I've modeled here. Now, as you'll see in my Better Creating workspace, this is literally where I manage everything. I have a knowledge and clippings hub, and this is the Readwise database. As you can see, podcast videos, articles and blogs, books. I've updated it, but what you're seeing here is all of the knowledge that I have captured. So this Derek Sivers entry, for example, if I open it up, is summarized by Notion AI. And then we have all of the clippings, and these you'll see are Readwise links to Kindle highlights. So it's pulling in all the stuff that I've highlighted. Now, the joy of this is that I can then link these to output. So just to show you a full version of what we're building here, if I now go into my, say, content manager, let's maybe take a look at this video here. What I can do here is add linked knowledge and find that exact reference and drop it in. Maybe I want to do designing your life, whatever. Now they're linked in, we can look in the linked knowledge view and I can see when I'm working on content, I'm able to link the stuff that's feeding into that writing and copy and use it. So this is the power of a knowledge base. Okay, let's dive into the build. Number one, I'm going to create the database, and we're going to do that by actually importing a fake Readwise database and then editing it to our needs. So you can do that too if you want the Readwise integration. There would be the option to kind of use whatever you've got existing, and then, for example, within this view, I might want to just create a new view here that links to the Readwise database that I've imported, and then maybe I make some other links within the system, maybe to projects. I'd link that Readwise database to the project. So this would just help you be able to connect everything up in a simpler way if you didn't want to build everything. Okay, first of all, let's do the database setup. So you'd go to Readwise, and I'm going to click on my dashboard, and we want to go to export. Now, mine's already set up, but essentially you will want to find where you want to send it. Now, these are some of the other examples we talked about, right? And you could actually set Readwise up to sync into any other system if you're not a Notion person like me. What you would do is create the connection and configure it, and then you would start your export to Notion. Now, when you configure it, it's going to create this, a Readwise database, and you'll see all of your books highlights come in through there. Now, if you want to see the properties, let's just say that was our example post clipping, you would have all this information come in. That's probably things like, whatever you were tagging it on subjects, and you can just do things to like improve it, wrap things and the rest. And you can actually edit what they're called. The one thing you don't want to do is change the property type, because that will mess it up with Readwise. Either way, if we just go into my sidebar and find this, there it is. I want to get onto my LifeOS build page, and I'm going to drop this into databases. So I want to open this up, find the Readwise page, click more, there it is, and I'm going to drag it and drop it into here. So once you've set up your export to Notion, you probably also want to set up your imports in Readwise if you're going to use it. So if you go to connect and sync and go to import highlights, you'll see suggestions of things that you can do. And it really is simple. So I have Kindle connected, Twitter, a command reader. There's lots of things. And I am actually using Snipped, but I haven't connected it. So let's give an example. This is my podcast. So I can click in here and it will just give you the instructions. You go through, you find the Readwise token, paste it into the thing and work your way through. The other great thing about this, if we go back, is you can also click explore and go and find the thing and find out if it's for you. But the stuff I'm really excited about with Readwise at the moment is this email import. So you can click import and follow the instructions to bring in email stuff if you want to send it. It's really powerful. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend getting this thing set up. Now, if you're not using Readwise, what you're doing is just creating a new database. And the way you would do that is do /database and drop it in inline. Now, if you want this to load faster, it could be better to keep it as a full page, because full page databases are easier to use. So this would just go in and then you would build the same thing out. And in fact, you can build with AI in Notion now. So I could say, create me a knowledge and clippings hub. I wonder if it would do that. Let's see. Now, this is a great new feature, helps you do the basic legwork quicker. So if you haven't seen this, it's worth trying. Now, let's just see what it comes out with. It might be rubbish, but I have found this to be reasonably all right to get started. Okay, it's not fantastic, but you get the example: types, tags, sources, URLs, so on and so forth. This is not important. You could change things. Anyway, that would be an option to get you started, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to come back out because I want to build it from the Readwise database. So there's our Readwise database. We can now go into it, and what you can now do is change it. Now, this won't mess up the connection. You just need to remember what it's called. You can change the logo, but let's leave it as it is. So what you'll find is you've already got a lot of things in here. So the next step that we're going to want to do is add a couple of other extra things. Now, you can rearrange it. I'm going to maybe move URL down. So to create new properties, you just need to click on here. I would love to add created time. You can just put that in because you'll just know when you clicked it. This will give you when it was last highlighted and synced. So that's quite useful. And I also want to have a last edited time there. Now, if you work with other people, you might also want to add a last edited by, so you can see who's been updating the data. But this is just useful because you could then sort by last edited time, and your most recent clippings that you're looking at or notes will always be at the top of that view. Very nice. I would probably change this to system. And then looking at books, let's just create a new book. You can just design what properties you want to see in your views. So we could go in here and we might want to see the URL, the category, maybe the summary below it. And if you wanted to, I would propose the other nice thing to add into this. We go back into system, click another property here. I would actually add, if you have Notion AI, an AI summary. It's really nice and it will just summarize pages that are in there. Now, obviously, if we do this now, it probably won't give us any information, no content, right? But when there is something, it will do it. The next property we want to add is a relation, and we're going to want to relate this to the places that we want to see the information linked. This is the thing about making connections. Now, for mine, I want to add it to my areas database. So I'm going to add that relation. I want it to be a two-way relation, no limit, and we'll call this. And here we might call this areas. We're then going to add another relation, and I want to link that to projects because this is going to be a big place where you want to bring in knowledge. You could link to your tasks, but personally, I think projects is the one. I'm going to call this related projects. I want a two-way relation, and I'm going to call this related knowledge. Now, it will be notes and references. You can call it whatever you want, but let's do that. There you go. So there are our relations. Now, the most important new property we need to add to this is a type property. And we're going to do that. Another way to do it is go up here, properties, a new property. And I want to do a select, not a multi-select, a select. And this is going to be type. What are we doing here? Let's add an option. I would like this to either be notes or references. Now, in my world, I would say that references are anything you clip and bring in. Notes are anything that you write yourself. Yeah, and I'm just going to keep them like that. You could have the option here, if you wanted to with type, to go further and sift by meeting notes separately to notes, but that's up to you. I don't do that in my Life OS. You'll see if we go into what's this doing, you'll see, there's references here. And then under notes, I just have a kind of meeting notes area. So that's up to you. I just do that by a separate tag. But you know what? I don't think this is a bad idea. So I'm going to add one more type into there for the fun on this one. But that is very much your choice. And we'll go meeting notes. And let's make that dark grey. So you kind of just see a bit of a difference there. There we go. Okay, so there they go. Now we're going to come back and clean this up in a minute. But there is one more that you're going to want to add, one more property, and that is going to be a status property, because we want to think about how we're going to sort our knowledge. So in the not started section, I'm going to change this default to be new inbox, so that everything that comes in as a default is just an inbox item. In the in progress, rather than it being in progress, I'm going to call this on reading list. So this could be things that you haven't read yet, but you've added to the system. I'm going to add another, which is just going to be live. You could just make it all live if you wanted. It's up to you. And I'm going to add another, which I'm going to call permanent. So that's stuff that I'm not actively looking at, but it's just permanently saved. And in complete, well, that becomes our archive, and we'll call that archived. Maybe we'll make it brown. So there you go. That's the views of status that you're going to want to call. You could call this knowledge status, but I think that's just fine like that. So let's just pull that back over because you probably want that over here. So let's leave the database alone for a moment. Hopefully, if you're enjoying that, it probably deserves a like. What we're now going to do is jump over and build out the basics of our knowledge base dashboard, and then we'll create views in the database that we've built and make them show up here. So that's the next step. Let's do it. Okay, so here we are on the LifeOS build that we've created so far. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you do get subscribed so that I can show you more of the rest of this build. Now, we're going to create something that looks quite similar to this project's dashboard. But I've built my dashboards down in the system section. So I'm just going to duplicate the project's dashboard so that we can work from that. Let's click into it and let's call this Knowledge Hub. We can delete the views that are in there because we don't need those views. We can change the logo, and just to show you, we could start kind of, as I've done in mine, color coding things a little bit. Now, I personally love knowledge to be a brain. There you go. There's your Knowledge Hub. And what's great is the synced menu that we created previously now works. So we can drop into here. Again, if you haven't been on the series, you're going to be wanting to check that out potentially of how to make this. But we're going to do Knowledge Hub, and then it drops it into the system. Done. What do we want to put up here? Well, let's do a heading 2, and we'll call this Inbox. And then below it, we're going to drop down and let's do... Maybe we'll go a full width down here. Just check that that is full width. Yeah, there you go. 3 dashes as a line. So let's just put in here a toggle heading 2, and we'll call this meeting notes. We can then duplicate these, written notes, references and clippings. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but I love the idea of notes and clippings as a clear system. I like doing that just to make it nice and clean. There we go. That's all we're going to do for now. We're also going to want to put in here toggle heading 3, and we'll call this quick capture. And that's where your buttons are going to go, which you could just start by reminding yourself to do it by clicking /button, and we will leave that uncompleted. But you get the image now of how quickly you can build a dashboard. And now what we want to do essentially is put in linked views to this. Now, what we do have for references and clippings is everything that already exists from the Readwise database that was already filtered. And I should probably mention on that, if I just go back to, so here in my hub, books, as you'll see, has a filter where we've just filtered by the category of books, something that was already put in. So when you build your database, make sure you create categories that you want to be able to search your clippings by. But what we're also going to do is add another filter to each of these, and I want it to be my type being references. So we only see references in there. Yeah. So let's go through and do that. You might want to make these advanced filters, by the way. So if you add these to an advanced filter, it then means they become rules and it's a bit cleaner. And while we're there, let's also go to add a filter where the status is not either inbox or completed. So this will only show us stuff that's in progress or permanent. Now, it would be worthwhile, while you're setting this up, also setting up a quick new template for new references. And in that, you want to make sure that, as you organize this, it's linked to being a reference and that the status is new or inbox. And that will just make sure that things come through as they need to. You could add an icon, maybe it's a paperclip. You can clean up stuff by hiding any properties that you need to. We're only going to do the basics today. So there that is. And that means that then everything that comes in that's new can be that. Now, if you're bringing stuff in through Readwise, you could also consider setting up a new trigger, which is, where something comes in with a tag already of like book or whatever else. You could then make sure that it's given the status of something else. But I'm not going to go into that today. Now, it's worth saying another way to do this could be easier actually to take an existing view, duplicate it, and call it like my books. Just a quick example, right? Find an icon, and then just come into the filters for that. And then all you'd need to do is only adjust the category to books, and you could delete the old view. It's just filtered views, right? You're not deleting what's in the database. The good thing about that is it's a lot quicker then to get all of your rules set up. So it's up to you. Okay, so there we go. I've got all of mine in there nice and ready to go. You may also just want to add that filter by last edited time, and you might want to add another filter, another sort, sorry, by status. Nice and clean. Lovely. And you could even, if you wanted to, with these views, then group by status. And you have a nice clean setup to see everything. That's up to you, but you can add those kind of filters and sorts in. Okay, so you just need to make sure essentially that each of these has this rule so that you're all nice and clean to see what you need to see, where you need to see it. I'm just going to go through and make sure they all look like that. So you could pause the video right now and make sure you keep an eye on that. Now, once I've got everything in place, we can now jump back to our build. And in this references and clippings, we can start to drop in these elements. So we can do / and you want to find linked view of database. And when you do that, you'll see you get an option to find your database. There it is. And from that point, I can pick which one I want to show. So I'm going to do my books. And there it is. There's the view that we created previously listed into the view with all the filters and sorts as we set up. So you can just work your way through now and do the same thing. So you could, now this is a linked view. If you just click table, it will give you the option to find it again, and then you can find whatever you want to add. So we're going to do articles. You might want to do system, but rename it to be all knowledge. You get the idea. I'm just going to work my way through, click my database, tweets, and I've formatted this as a list. This is a gallery. You know, you can add them in as you need. One more. The one we haven't got, I think, if we show more, is podcasts and videos. Videos should really be, let's do a gallery. Videos. I'm actually going to change the layout of this one to be a gallery because show page cover, card size medium, fit image, that kind of thing will probably do it, and you can adjust the views as you need. So there's our references and clippings in. Now I want to build out the notes section in meeting notes and all of that and just create some better views. So let's jump to that next. Could be a moment to pause the video and grab a cup of coffee. Now, as you can see in my better creating section, I do have an all view, which I've grouped by its status. I actually call it slightly different things, but that's just me. This is a good example of what the books view will look like. I love that Readwise brings in the covers from Kindle. That is a really good feature. You know, these are all kind of working fine. This is a nice layout. This is using lists. And then you can see like author, subject tags. So there's lots of ways that you can just kind of set the properties that you want to show for each of the views. We've got PDFs over here, videos. There's not anything in that for some reason, but you know, there you go. You get the idea. But all knowledge, podcasts. Now, what's great about this is an example of, you know, I was listening to Will Storr. He's got a great new book out, by the way. This is through the Snipped app. There's an air quote similar to what I'm doing with Snipped, and it will give you the timestamp of the episode and my note. So I can go and listen to that and see what it says. It's pretty cool. And, you know, you can drop lots and lots of bits and bobs in that you've selected as you go. So I really recommend trying out Snipped. It's fantastic. I'm not affiliated with them, but I recommend it. So that is how I'm clipping everything in. So let's go and build some of these views because actually if I go to my knowledge base in here, we also have this notes view. I might want to be able to see my own thoughts within there. Obviously, this is just a demo version. All right, so let's go back to the database and let's just duplicate the system view like we did before and call this all knowledge. And while we're doing that, I would like to group by status, and then we get that nice view. That probably means that you could actually hide that, but if it's all knowledge, it's not unhelpful to have it as an option, but maybe we just move it over. But there you go, you can then see all of that. And I actually think when you do that with all knowledge, just in case you miss anything under group, I would make sure that you don't hide empty groups, and then anything that comes in will go in. And if anything doesn't have a status, it will pop up within that view as well. So that's a very useful thing on all knowledge. All right, let's now make our filter on that complete with one thing, which will be type. You just want that to be references. Okay, and I would say make it a advanced filter. All right, notes. All right, I've put an example book in to show you that my cat wrote. There you go. Let's see. I quite like this view, let's say, of stuff. And what's good is that you can also drop things between these views to change their status, which is quite a nice thing to do. So I'm going to reuse that. So I'm going to now duplicate that. And we're going to call this live notes. We'll adjust this to a note like that. We will change the filters so that this is now notes, not references. I'll obviously clear Pepper's book out. And you might want to put in for category something that just automatically is what relating it to that. Or you can just leave that blank, it's up to you, because you don't really need that to be there. So personally, I would actually just clear that. So you've got notes, and sure, it's not inbox or archived. That's fantastic. So in fact, if you want it just to be live, you could go the other way and go and is live permanent. Why not? Let's just call it that, just in case you've got a catch-all. Good. And that's working. Now, you can show whatever views you want to put in there by obviously showing which properties are there. It's worth having the type probably there, just so you can see that these are notes. Category isn't going to be there, but potentially AI summary or summary is really useful to have in there. Now, what we're doing here with live notes is that we're putting notes into the same database that was the Readwise database. But that's fine because you just want to have everything in one place to be searchable. There's live notes. We could then duplicate that, and let's create maybe all notes just to keep it super simple today. You get the idea, you build what you want, and we just adjust the filters to make that work. And this would become everything, for example. That's all I'm going to do at the moment. But what I am going to do is take live notes, duplicate it, and call this meeting notes. I think this is quite important. And we're going to change this to be people. Lovely. Meeting notes. Again, change the filter to be where notes is meeting notes. And let's do a sort where the main thing that we do is last edited. Because with meeting notes, it's probably quite helpful. That's all great. That's working. So there are our meeting notes. Now we also need to create our inboxes. So a place where you can drop notes and references as you get them. And to do that, what we want to do is just duplicate these versions. Yeah, so we're going to duplicate live notes tray, maybe. Yeah, there you go. My notes inbox. And again, just adjust the filters. It's really, really simple. We're going to go where status is only inbox. Great. Let's then duplicate that again. And we'll call this my meeting notes inbox. And you guessed it. Go to the filters, adjust the filters. This is correct, but now we want to change this to meeting notes. It seems like a lot of work now, but it's great later on. So let's then duplicate that one more time, and we'll call this references inbox. Change the filters, and this time you want to change that to references. There we go. So we've got 3 inboxes created. I think that's enough. Make sure with your inboxes that you also ungroup them. So we want to go to group by status and then none, because you don't want groups on those inboxes. So you just want to work through group by and do that. Let's now go and build the views that we need on the main homepage of your knowledge bank. This gets really simple. We just want to find a linked database, linked view of database. There it is. We want to find our knowledge base, and then you're going to see loads more options. Show more, and it can get a bit tricky, but I'm going to find meeting notes inbox. There it is. I'm going to ungroup it. Should have done that before. Group by none. if you don't want that. And I'm going to, in this view, hide database title. I'm going to create another one. We're just going to work our way through, find our references inbox. And finally, same process, but now we add my notes inbox. So we've got our references, our meeting notes, and our notes in our inbox. There you go, and that is all good. So when I add something new to that, you'll see that it automatically says it's in the inbox. And you can link this then to projects. For example, my Life I Must Build project. And then you're starting to see those options appear. All this stuff can go in. You might want to create a new template for meeting notes as well. So we could create a new template and call it new written notes. Set that up, give it a little icon like that. And then make that our new written notes. And you probably want to do in meeting notes. Let's create a new meeting note as an example. Create a new template, new meeting notes, and make sure the type is meeting notes. Add your icon, and you're all set. So we now have clear logos going in. Now, what I propose you do with this as well is on the inbox views, you go in here and you set these to default. So you can go in here and go set as default only for references inbox view. It's a really great trick so that every time you add something, it will have the right setup. So you just go through your inboxes and click into this view here, go to the templates you've created. This is a meeting note. So let's just move that up for clarity. Set as default, only for meeting notes inbox. And my notes, we want to new written note, set as default, only for my notes. And there you go. You've now got a means that when you create a new note, it will automatically do the template. In inboxes, I also prefer in layout to have no card preview, just so it's a little bit more manageable. I think that's useful. Same in meeting notes, layout, card preview, none. It's a little bit cleaner. And then reference notes will leave because you might get images coming through from wherever it's coming from, Readwise, if you do that. All you'll need to do to filter it from the inbox is either create a button if you see the previous videos, or just change it to on reading list and it disappears because of those filters. Great. So that's inboxes. Let's just fill out the rest of the homepage. It's only going to take us a moment now and we're basically there with the build. And then what I'm going to do is show you how we can start to import stuff using a constructed save to Notion clipper in Chrome. So you've got a kind of custom clipping system. We'll do that a bit later on. Here we go. Last little bit in meeting notes, you're going to want to go /linked database view. Find it and find your meeting notes view that you created. There's the view. You can see them dropping in very nicely. Again, I would probably hide the database title. We're going to do the same for written notes. Now you could just have all knowledge. You don't have to do it like this. This is an example, right? So you could just have everything down there. You don't have to get to as complex as this, but it's a nice way to just help your experience of finding things quicker. This really does help. Live notes, great. One more. And you're going to want to find all notes, and then references and clippings is ready. So there you go. Right, the last bit is to create our little buttons. And let's just go into this button. I'm going to click in. We're going to call this new meeting note. You can, of course, use your same coding. When the button is clicked, it's a very simple automation, this. New action, I want you to add a page to the knowledge database as a new meeting note template. Very important. And I would suggest that it's up to you. Do you want it to go into your inbox? Potentially not. If you want to change it, you can update anything within this. So if you wanted it to be linked to a certain area, let's say, I wanted it to fundamentally be linked always to work life, I could set that up. And it's another way just to start setting things up cleanly. And you need to add a second action, which is open page, and select the page to be opened as the one you've just created. Okay? Click done, and that will mean if we watch our meeting notes, it creates it. There it is. You can see that it is linked to work life, that I can, rearrange this stuff. and you can see the note is added here. And you can do things like mention today so that it gives you the information. It's really nice. So all you're going to want to do now is duplicate your button and work through and create your other button actions. So this would be as a new written note. With this, I might not want to link it to life areas. That's probably fine. I personally prefer to set these to side peak. So if we just do that for each of those, let's just update this, rename it, new note, change this icon, side peak. Now the joy of that is when I click new note, it pops up here and you're able to see what you're doing. So it all goes in there, information goes in, and you've got what you need. Now, in your templates, another great little trick to try is go into, for example, your meeting notes and edit it. You're editing a template, and then you might want to put in like titles, just so it's kind of set up, ready to go. You could do /to-do list and just have it ready, right? You might want to have, maybe you want it to be a toggle, heading 2, and we'll call this one session notes. Yeah. And you could even, if you wanted to, if you have Notion AI, you could go AI block, and you could describe what you want this to do. And you can kind of see the stuff it will do, right? So we can just clear that out. You leave that in the template. We might duplicate this, drop that above, and call this summary. And you've got your summary block ready to go. Pretty good. And that means that you can now, if I update this as a meeting note, it will update the template to have those elements in it. This is the power of a Notion system. So that's my notes. That is my clippings all set up, and you have created your buttons. You could put new reference in here. I don't think there's a need for it because you're drawing everything in automatically. That's the idea. But you may want to, for example, copy these, go back onto your main homepage and drop them into the homepage as well. So that's always something that you could do if you want to work this in. Now, what we're missing finally on our main homepage is a link to our Knowledge Hub. And that's very simply done. We can just drop down. We'll do 1, 2, 3 to do that. And we'll go /toggle heading 1. And we're going to do @Knowledge Hub. And there's the view that you need. Now, if you wanted to put key things in here, you could do that by going into the Knowledge Hub now and maybe just copying a view. So maybe all you really want is your live meeting notes in that page view, let's say. That's all that you really wanted. You could duplicate this view, click Move To, and go to your LifeOS homepage. You can then use your navigation to jump back, and we'll find it down the bottom here. And we could just drop our meeting notes into that toggle. So whatever you need in your toggle is ready for you to use. That is pretty much the main build points of a Knowledge Hub as you need it. Now, to finish this build off, I want to show you the cool parts that can really take your system to the next level before we finally look at how we quick capture information into this. And to do that, I want to show you what I've been doing in LifeOS. You can create really powerful reporting views like this. So in here, I can see resources that are linked to my areas. In projects, you can see when things are reviewed, when they were last tracked. If they're due for review, you can mark them as reviewed and update the reports. It's properly powerful stuff. And in knowledge, we can do other reports like topics and resources, when it was created, how many weeks old the item is. Now, the reason I say that is I actually have a topics database. Now, this is something that is worth considering. The way I look at it is it's a bit like your areas for your life areas, but topics is purely for knowledge. You know, this is a great way to sort and make connections between things. So think of it like an areas database, but then I can link notes and references into, say, brand strategy as a topic, and I'm able to then see those items listed within it. And I can even do things like link journal entries in if you want to go much wider. Now, of course, this is a complete template, so it covers lots more ground with contacts, notebooks, an archive view of everything that's been dropped in. So even my goals, my projects, task bin, there's loads of stuff that can be built out. So it is worth considering as you build this. It's not going to be a redundant exercise. You might find that you do want other elements. I could suggest to you that you could download a template like this and then just link your existing knowledge base into it, or even just use it as a great training tool to then end up with the full version. So if later on down the line you want more functionality like these lovely report views, I do cover it earlier in the series, but it could be worth considering if you want to go further with Notion. And on that note, I now want to show you how you can see information pop up in a way that's useful to you. And we're going to do that by actually updating my content manager template. So let me show you how this works. Okay, so this is where I make my content, right? I mean, look, this is my current video. If I go to content, I'm planning it out. There's thumbnail ideas within here, and then all the scripting and work. So I want a place where I can link knowledge. Now, the new layouts feature allows us to view a linked knowledge view. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. It used to be, if we take my projects as an example, I would link down here the knowledge base. So you're able to view it within the page. But I want to show you something much cooler that I'm going to be doing for my templates and you should do for your build today. We're going to go into our projects. And this is going to be a super quick way for you to show knowledge that's in there. We're going to go into the project page and you'll see related knowledge is listed here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go up to here and click on Customize Layout. Very exciting. Now, what we can do here is one thing I think is worth doing is you can pin things to the top, which will make it much cleaner. So for example, if I pin status, it moves it up into this nice clean line. I think that's great. So we're jumping to projects from a previous build, right? But we could do that. And maybe we want to say the life area and probably the timeline. Have I got a timeline? Start and end date. There you go. That looks great. Maybe swap it over. And maybe markers reviewed. I think that looks really clean. This could be hidden away. You could completely hide this away. Or what you can also do with this now is add sections. So this could be reports. You could have another one, which is actions. And for example, I could go move it up. And then I'm going to add one more, which is system. We can just add these down, let's say like that. And you can apply it to all pages. And then you get this much cleaner view of your page. But it gets better. Let's work out, for example, relating knowledge to a project, what else we can do. Click into Customize Layout, and you'll also find here, simple and tabbed. So if we add a tabbed view and add a new tab, we can find related knowledge and drop it in. And I would propose, as you saw in my previous example, we go to properties. So if we hide all, you probably want to show category, type, URL, status, maybe something like that, and the AI summary. And that will just give you the information that you need on it. What's more is, if we go back out, if you go to layout and then make it gallery and wrap all properties, you'll then get a really clean link. So to add something to this, let's apply that to all pages within that database. And then if we simply add related knowledge to our example, like my work meeting notes, and go to related knowledge, you'll see it within that view. Now, I think this is the cleanest new way to add things. And what's more is, as a little bonus, I would actually suggest that you do this again for tasks. You add your related tasks, and you're very quickly going to find that you have yourself a really useful task list system. I mean, I'm not going to get into too much depth here with this, but as you can see, it very quickly works. And you can do all the usual stuff around filtering by status. You can filter things out of it if you want to, as long as it's automatically related to this project, it works. And there you go. You've got, apply that to all pages. You've got a much cleaner system now to show the related knowledge to your projects. And you can have a little setup here where you maybe even create a relations section where you can link anything to it. Fantastic stuff. So make sure you try out the new layouts feature. I think it's super powerful. And actually, while we're there, we may as well do this in our knowledge system. Go in here, customize the layout, and just go to tabbed, and just make sure that we can show areas and projects. I'm just going to leave it really simple, and it just gives you a way to show what is related to what. A little reminder to subscribe if you haven't done that. It's the final part of the video coming right up, and it's time for us to just quickly look at how you do quick capture information into a system like this, because it really is quite special when you use it. So let's jump over to the web. Let's take a little look at Save to Notion in Chrome, and I'm going to show you how it works by clipping one of my videos into it, my easy way to stay organized video. Let's do it. Right, so you could do this with Flylighter, or you could do this with Save to Notion. I think both are great. If you want to try this, it's far more powerful, but Save to Notion is the thing I've been using for a long time. But either way, you just go to the Chrome web store for whichever, and you would click Add to Chrome, right? I've already got mine in there. Same here, and click Add to Chrome, you'll find it, and you can add it. And it will tell you information about what it does. Now, when you do that, you have this little view up here. Now, of course, this is for Chrome, so you need to use Chrome. This is just the Notion web clipper, which is, as you can see, quite simple. You can pick a database, drop things into it, and that's kind of it. Readwise has its own clipper, which allows you to jump to it quite quickly, which is quite nice. When you've added it, you can come into here, click in this little thing, and make sure you pin, if I unpin Flylighter, it disappears, pin it so that it turns up and you can move it along. Let's say I wanted to clip my Pareto principles of the 80-20 rule. Good thing for you to know about. What we're going to do is click on this, and I'm going to create a new form. But if you take a look at my existing form, this is my knowledge base. If I add it in, I can add a content image. I can like select an image, say, I don't know, we're going to just select that. You can select a template that you want to use with it if you wanted to. I can select the status of it as I go, and I could pre-format that. So maybe put it on my reading list. I could link it to a project. You know, let's say it was parttimeproductivity.com. I can link it to content that I'm working on. You can see all the stuff that was there before, like go into there, and the AI summary is just as it is. I then click Save Page, and you can jump straight to it by opening the page in Notion, but I'm actually just going to go find it. If we go back to my workspace and go into knowledge and clippings, we put it on the reading list, and there it is. If I open it up, you will see all of the information is clipped into the system. What's more, because I could pre-do it, we also had the option to add it and link it to a project that we were working on. If I just go and find that video, using our nice toggle, if we go to link knowledge, we've then also got the Pareto principle dropped in, and I can access it within it. This is how powerful using a clipping tool really can be. So if we now jump back to the web clipper, let's just quickly build you a form to do the same. So you're going to go into the form again. I want to add a new form. Select your database. Obviously, you'd have to kind of link this up to Notion first, but you follow that system. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's our new knowledge demo. And then name is page title, image, main image, content. You can change this to web page content or just empty. I'm going to make it clip everything. I want to select the template. I want to select that as, of course, a new reference, very important. And then if you add a new field, you'll see all your other items can go in here as well. So you want to select your type within this to be references. And this will just be pre-formatting the form, right? We probably want to have an option to add related projects. You can leave empty as well, right? And areas. So as you find it, you'll be wanting to add these things in. Maybe you want to add the category. So it just gives you the option to do those little details. And status. We could set our status to be new inbox. That's another option, right? You can then pick your thing. I actually might make it articles as preset, so you've got the option. That needs to stay down the bottom because we know that's going to happen. And there you go. You can then save and go back, and there is my system. So I can click into here. Now we're looking at the actual clipping, empty or not, or you can do select on page and actually just highlight the section you want to pick or whatever, right? Confirm selection. Then we save it, and let's see if it's worked. Let's go back to Notion, go to our build along in our knowledge hub, and we should see in our inbox of references the Pareto principle. And there it is, all clipped in just as we wanted it to be. And it just allows me then to, while I'm there, check it all. And when I'm happy with it, I can just send it through to be on my reading list. and it will turn up within the right place under all knowledge or under articles. You'll see it. And you can, do things like wrap pages and all the rest of it to make it look as you want it. You've now got the foundation for a powerful knowledge management system. But here's the truth. Even the most beautiful knowledge hub can't help you if you're constantly overwhelmed by tasks and never have enough time to actually use the knowledge that you're collecting. That's why I've created a video specifically about the easiest approaches that have actually worked for me on task and time management. And you can find that video right here. Click on my face to get subscribed if you haven't. Make sure you go check out that to go further into this world, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.